and welcome to Firstpost Spotlight, where we bring you stories that matter to you from all across the world. From breaking news to the day's biggest controversies, we shed light on issues that shape our world. I'm Alison Lagrange, live from Durban, South Africa. Let's begin with the top headlines. World's richest person, Elon Musk, says he regrets some of his social media posts against the US President Donald Trump, days after the two engaged in an unprecedented public feud. Former Brazilian President Jair Bolsonaro admits to seeking alternative ways to remain in power after losing the 2022 elections, but denies involvement in an alleged coup plot to overthrow the current president Lula da Silva. Death toll from flooding in eastern parts of South Africa rises to 9. Rescuers race against time in their search for the missing children after their minibus was swept away in the Eastern Cape province. The Constitutional Court in the Philippines Senate convenes for the impeachment trial of Vice President Sara Duterte, hours after the failure of last-ditch efforts of Duterte's allies to delay or terminate the trial. And high-powered tech executives begin convening in Paris for a much-anticipated tech affair with the focus on the role of artificial intelligence amid the US-China trade tensions. Hello and welcome. We begin with a developing story from the Korean Peninsula. The deepening alliance between North Korean leader Kim Jong-un and Russian President Vladimir Putin is not just creating real consequences for the war in Ukraine, but also for North Korea's arch-rival, South Korea. In the latest, Ukraine's intelligence chief has claimed that Russia has agreed to help North Korea set up drone manufacturing facilities on its soil to produce Iranian-designed Shahed drones. In the near term, these drones, if manufactured in North Korea, could strengthen Russia's war effort against Ukraine. But in the longer term, they may give Pyongyang the ability to strike far deeper into South Korea, further escalating tensions on the peninsula. Shahed drones fly at top speeds of 115 miles per hour and can travel up to 2,500 kilometers. They weigh around 200 kilograms and cost just about $2,000 each. Russia has used thousands of these kamikaze or suicide drones in Ukraine since the start of the invasion over 3 years ago. They have struck power plants, energy grids, and other critical infrastructure, causing widespread damage and adding battlefield gains. Reports say the first wave of Shahed drones used in Ukraine came directly from Iran, but the recent strikes have been carried out using Russian-made versions built in a defense economic zone just outside Moscow. However, in recent months, those defense production sites inside Russia have come under Ukrainian fire, leading Moscow to explore other locations to keep its drone supply alive. And if Ukraine's intelligence assessment is to be believed, North Korea could become Russia's next hub for drone production. Pyongyang is already providing ammunition and men of fighting age to Russia as a part of a growing strategic partnership that includes a mutual defense pact, one that obligates military support if either country is attacked. As the war in Ukraine drags into its 4th year, Russia remains heavily reliant on military support from Iran and North Korea. Shahed drones, once imported from Iran, are now manufactured in Russia and soon, possibly, in North Korea too. This isn't just about maintaining a steady drone supply for the war in Ukraine. It's about building an axis of defense, one that could shift the balance of power between North and South Korea as well. With Russia, North Korea, and Iran growing closer than ever, the drone warfare of today could also shape the conflicts of tomorrow, and the implications may echo far beyond the battlefields of Ukraine. Moving on, let's turn our attention to the United Kingdom. Some significant projections have come up regarding the UK's net migration figures and their potential impact on key sectors of the economy. An independent government advisor, Professor Brian Bell, who chairs the Migration Advisory Committee, has indicated that the UK net migration is expected to fall to 200,000 in 2026. This figure is then predicted to rise somewhat in the medium term, settling just below 300,000. Now, this forecast will be likely welcomed by Downing Street, particularly after Prime Minister Keir Starmer pledged to significantly reduce net migration over the next 4 years. Successive UK governments have long struggled to curb net migration, which is the difference between those entering and leaving the country. The UK's net migration reached a record high of over 900,000 in the year ending June 2023. In the year ending June of 2024, the net migration stood at nearly 730,000, while the total net migration in 2024 was nearly 430,000. Now, this recent drop and the anticipated further decline can be attributed to changes in the UK's visa issuance numbers. However, a sharp reduction in migration could bring its own set of challenges. Professor Bell specifically highlighted concerns for the hospitality and retail sectors, warning that restaurants, shops and hotels might struggle to recruit staff from abroad in the coming years. Now, these remarks come as the Migration Advisory Committee launched its latest report on family visas. The report suggested scrapping a conservative plan to raise the minimum income threshold for family visas to nearly £40,000 or over $52,000, arguing it could conflict with human rights laws. The committee outlined different options, including a threshold of over $32,000 to over $37,000, which could give more priority to economic well-being, such as by reducing the burden on taxpayers, than to family life. Now, it suggested a threshold of over $30,000 to over $33,000 could ensure that families were able to support themselves without necessarily requiring them to earn a salary above the minimum wage. The committee said that lowering the amount to over $32,000 could mean an increase of about 1 to 3% of projected future net migration. Addressing concerns raised by Labour's plans, Professor Bell also commented on potential problems in filling vacancies in the social care sector from abroad. While new government policy will prevent care companies from bringing in new workers from overseas on the health and care worker visa, they will still be able to recruit individuals already in the UK. The UK government is walking a politico-economic tightrope. Now, it remains to be seen how the country curbs net migration while tackling the labour shortage issue. And shifting our attention to Southeast Asia, Hong Kong authorities have for the first time invoked sweeping national security laws to ban a video game. Police in the semi-autonomous city have issued a stern warning to residents, urging them not to download a Taiwanese-made mobile game titled Reversed Front Bonfire. Authorities accuse the game of advocating armed revolution and inciting the overthrow of the government in Beijing. According to the government statement, authorities have also taken disabling action on electronic messages related to the game. Now, this marks the first known use of both the 2020 Beijing-imposed national security law and local security legislation passed last year being used to block a video game. The government had previously asked Google to restrict access to a protest song, which the company initially resisted, until an appeals court confirmed an injunction order. Reversed Front Bonfire, which was launched in April, is currently not available on Apple's App Store or Google's Play Store in Hong Kong. The game's developer had previously stated in May that Google Play had removed it due to issues with players using hate speech in usernames. According to the government announcement, sharing the game could lead to charges of inciting secession and subversion. Simply downloading it could be seen as possessing a publication with seditious intent. Now, warning the residents, authorities have said that those who have downloaded the application should uninstall it immediately and must not attempt to defy the law. Under the implementation rules for the 2020 National Security Law, platforms deemed to be publishing content that endangers national security can be compelled to take disabling action on electronic messages. Failure to comply carries a hefty fine of $100,000 and imprisonment of up to 6 months. The Hong Kong government has consistently emphasized the paramount importance of protecting national security, even as it pledges to focus on economic growth. This latest enforcement action highlights a continued tightening of national security safeguards, following the 2020 law that silenced dissent after widespread pro-democracy protests. Just last month, new measures were implemented requiring operators of various premises, from restaurants to funeral parlours, to comply with new national security clauses or risk losing their licenses. Hong Kong Chief Executive John Lee reiterated yesterday that all citizens bear a responsibility to protect Chinese state. Hong Kong's use of national security laws to ban a video game raises a lot of questions about the freedom of speech and expression of the residents of the semi-autonomous Chinese city. Now, it remains to be seen as to what extent will Beijing go to suppress dissent in the name of guarding national security. And moving on, love in the 21st century is no quiet affair. It arrives with the ping of a notification, flourishes over late-night DMs, and sometimes ends with a ghosting that stings deeper than words. In this fast, fleeting world of swipes and likes, University of Delhi is taking an unusual and some would say necessary step. Now, starting this session, the Delhi University's Gen Z students will learn not just Shakespeare or economics, but the art of reading red flags, tending to heartbreak, and building relationships that nourish rather than drain. The course is called Negotiating Intimate Relationships, a gentle invitation to pause and ponder the emotional webs youngsters weave on and off social media. Open to all undergraduates, this general elective is one of its kind, acknowledging that behind every sharp classroom mind is also a soft and sometimes a bruised heart, trying to make sense of friendships, flings, commitment, and betrayal. In Delhi's labyrinth of hostels and paying guest facilities, where endless coffees fuel midnight confessions, the need is real. Multiple chilling murder cases in recent months, tied to obsessive and toxic relationships, reveal how intimacy without emotional self-awareness can snowball into violence. With this course, the university can interrupt that spiral early on. The Department of Psychology will guide this journey with 4 rich modules. The first explores the psychology of friendships and intimate relationships, the delicate threads that tie two people in trust or desire. From platonic bonds to the awkward stumbles of new dating, students will trace how attachments form and sometimes fray. Then comes understanding love, an exploration of classic theories that explain this ancient force. Discussions on sexuality aim to remind students that love wears many faces. But at the heart of this course will be lessons on identifying the signs of relationships going sour. They will seek to answer the questions youngsters often do not ask, such as how to sense jealousy tightening its grip, how to spot manipulation, disrespect, or quiet cruelty before they take root. What are the early whispers of partner violence? Finally, the course will focus on flourishing relationships, and this would include emphasis on communication, respect, consent, patience, words that seem so simple, but in truth are skills to be honed over a lifetime. It won't all be theory. Students will map their digital lives, analyze their online friendships, dissect dating disasters, and reflect on pop culture's tangled messages, from toxic movie characters to the dreamy, doomed devotion of romantic films. University of Delhi has dared to step where most syllabi feared to tread, into complex and messy, but an utterly human heart of its Gen Z students. Maybe, just maybe, this is the life lesson they need the most. And that's all we have on the show for today. We will see you again tomorrow at the same time. Thank you for watching. Stay tuned to Firstpost.
From breaking news to the day's biggest controversies, shedding light on the world's top headlines, detailed analysis on the stories that matter the most to you. Catch it all on Spotlight at 6 p.m. India time and 12:30 GMT, only on Firstpost.
Hello and a very warm welcome. I am Gushin Garland and you're watching Firstpost. In the next few minutes, I get you the top 40 updates from around the world, only here on Fast and Factual. Let's get started. Tensions continue to rise in Los Angeles as protesters defy curfew imposed over violent protests. The police department has initiated mass arrests to control the massive stir. This as anti-illegal immigration raids triggered mass protests in Los Angeles. After Los Angeles, protesters in Chicago have also hit the streets to oppose the U.S. Immigration Enforcement Agency's crackdown. The protests led to several arrests and intense face-off with the police. The U.S. and Chinese officials have agreed on a framework to put their trade truce back on track and remove China's export restrictions on rare earths. The U.S. Commerce Secretary has also expressed optimism after a full day of negotiations, adding that concerns surrounding rare earth minerals and magnets will be resolved eventually as the deal is implemented. However, this framework needs to be approved by the leaders in Washington and Beijing.